Okay, I'm assuming we'll be able to expand this, but we're going to take a look at a video. Again, this is formerly the most censored channel. I was deactivated along with a bunch of people that had in the thousands of subs, which makes you kind of wonder. A guy that has only 150 subs, 200 videos, people are starting to really, I mean, I had gotten new subscribers every single day. I was adding at least one, usually two or three, to the point where, and then I was holding them accountable on the views. They already started limiting my views. I should have some 40, 50 views, but they're only showing 26 for the last 3 days because they don't want me telling people the truth. Anyways, let's take a look at some more QAnon secret space program, JFK lies, David Paulides covering up the missing body parts, and HR negative. I'm just going to throw in everything at the beginning. Raj Patel is a fallen angel that never blinks, and so is Rory McSweeney. So how about that, YouTube? Don't try and act like what I said is hate speech, because I'm actually, theoretically, I should be more lined up with the left than the right at this point, going after QAnon, going after Trump. But yet you label it hate speech. Interesting. It kind of makes the person think like, hey, it's all a big freaking joke. It's all a big scam, and they're just controlling the narrative of truth with this Q crap. And that's what you guys are really scared of. People figuring that out.
See a man using some sort of piece of glass. I'm not too sure what this glass is made of. And this is what happens.
Оп. Видели такое? Вот он весь научный секрет НЛО, блин. Видно только через такое.
If this video is real or not is another question. What I do...
You know, what makes me interested is that something invisible, something clear, makes something that was clear visible. It actually makes a lot of sense. Let's take a look at some of those rainbow things in the sky. Okay, we're just going to go over a few things that have concerned me. People sometimes like these videos, and I got to rebuild up back followers. So if you guys can help me, reference them to how I was the most censored channel. Take them back to that video. It shows I was deactivated. I'm going to post the email soon that shows you guys I was banned for life, which I think is pretty extreme. And they did block my IPN number. I tried to log into a different account. The phone is basically toast, that phone, and then they're already starting it on my new accounts. Anyways, look at the spaceman when you're not allowed offline. Look at him looking at a tablet, shooting a rocket. And Saturn there in the background. What are they? Who's seeing this? Who's that accessing the secret space program? Loves that stuff. And there's no anything that's connected to space. This is just that I can't get online. They're so obvious. Now I'm going to show you guys this TV show that runs during the day. It's called Jet Propulsion. What's interesting about a show called Jet Propulsion, which you guys should look up, is Jack Parsons, who was a known occultist witch. His labs were called JPL or something, but it was called inside everyone else Jet Propulsion Laboratories. Jet Propulsion. So literally the show is named what Jack Parsons and his little inside crew used to call where they worked. It wasn't called that officially, but isn't that interesting? This is the same man that had connections to Crowley, who was into satanic rituals, sex magic, all that stuff, designing rockets for this country, for this great Christian country who's going to do the Christian thing and go to space. You see how the devil does that? You see where there's the absence of the Bible, there's the absence of wisdom, the absence of true biblical knowledge and wisdom, and from that the inferred wisdom and soundness of the personalities making decisions. This is what's missing in Washington. All we really need to fix the problem is about 50 real Christians out there. One is president, and enough in the Senate to hold people accountable for being fake religionists. Anyways, so this guy's been bugging me for a while. I see him every night just going nuts. Now, he is a busted pedo. I haven't talked about this for a while, but this guy was in this video with this poor kid who they found was missing. And I'm not going to show it because I don't want to get algorithms. But he The poor kid is like crying. You can tell he is terrified, and he knows he is with a weird, evil person. And so I'm just going to expose him. This is COLBEBERT. And he has a show every night. And basically he sits there and talks about MAGA nonstop, mega, mega, mega. And I don't know if it's just to keep people off of his own trail now, but don't forget, this will be what happens. You'll see him get brought out in jail, and you'll see these people. And as each one starts getting busted, all these questions MAGA was getting asked about QAnon, he's like, I just know they don't like pedophiles, and they like me, and they're going to, as these people start getting busted, and they're like, oh, it was true, QAnon, do you see what's going to happen? It's going to gain credibility. They are starting a fake, false religion under the banner of Q. They are. There's already Q churches. Now, I find it interesting that when I started exposing the Q churches as well, I get think, because guys and girls, I got axed with a bunch of people that had thousands of subs. You guys had witnessed all of my censorship. Censorship to the point that I renamed the channel The Most Censored Channel and only got challenged on it one time by a troll. Now, I know that might probably be because they would hide most of my comments, of which they also did. They would hide my commenters. I would be able to see a comment come up in notifications if they were on, and if I clicked on it, it wouldn't be there at the video. And I could show you that if they hadn't deleted all my videos. Now, that's fine. I remember everything, and I have another phone that had all the hard stuff that would be able to, you know, like the Raj Patel catching that little fallen angel in all of his little movie. Remember that show he was in, Would You Believe or Do You Believe, where they stole a statue, and basically the statue either came to life or somebody stole it. Very interesting. About statues and statues coming to life and the image coming to life, breathing life into the image. Raj Patel, i.e. you guys get it. And then when I did find this, let me show you guys that. That's cool. Okay, I'll have to get that up. But here's something that to this day they're still censoring on Insta. Just little things. So if you want to make them mad, maybe blur out the F word. But start posting this up to Twitter. Send it to and you will see them come after you like you wouldn't believe, because they know that these memes bypass the conscious and insert into the subconscious that something's wrong. Of which I'm still not off of this. I think we do need to be watching for this to happen. The whole 5G. And then they're going to actually start causing real CV-19 cases with this stuff like they did in the beginning in New York. Which they did. They just straight up started beaming people with it. And it's not beyond them. These people that have this power will not give it up. We passed... 1963 was the last time I think there was a fair election. I mean, before that. Honestly, if even that. Basically, probably since 1933, when was our first real contact with aliens, probably flipped the whole paradigm. Because once these people in government realized it, they started making decisions based on knowledge they didn't have very good details on, if you know what I mean. And so all of a sudden this person that's basically thinks he's in charge of the free world, if it was free, now making these huge global decisions that are way above his head and that are being supervised by demonic aliens. Now, interesting story. Back then, they had a lot of Christians, real Christians in the military. One of that Roswell incident, one of these guys who was a real Christian went down and he saw him. And the gray was saying all this stuff he was from this. And the guy said, "You're a demon." And this thing went berserk. Started freaking out saying, "How could you say that?" You know, like when you're just caught and you act super obvious. Yeah, one of those was what the Greys did. So they still don't, you know, and if one ever comes, if you ever think there's a cryptid by your house, you ever think, you call out the name of Jesus and you send that thing back to hell, they won't bother you again. They won't. They're manifestations of, I think, many spirits wrapped up inside of a body, and they make these things able to carry them. Anyways, moving on. And we couldn't move on without the NBA rigged hoax champion giving him a little bit of disgusting black rain to look at here. This guy is a clear pedo. This is Chris Bosch's daughter, if you guys aren't familiar. You can see the sick thing he posted, and it just shows you these guys are all in on it. This is another one. I started posting this up and I started tagging it effectively because I figured out tagging on Twitter really helps. And as soon as I started doing that, all of a sudden they start getting blurred, because they understand that if you bypass the subconscious with a meme, it's very dangerous. I don't think these people understood how dangerous memes can be until it was too late. Truth. Because they also arrogant. That's where your hubris gets you. With the Obama, Jack, whatever at Twitter and all that, they start to realize, oh, look at all this stuff, it works. And then it blows up in their face when it gets used against them. And they don't know what to do. And yet, that still just keeps the whole Hegelian dialectic moving on. When these conservatives are fighting against Jack and Twitter, instead of looking at what's happening in Israel, looking what's happening in front of them, you see what's really going on. And all of it keeps you out of the Bible, keeps you from studying, keeps you from... One could even suggest that this very video right here, by addressing all these things, and if it were a distraction from it, would even suit their purposes in some ways. Just to distract, just to cause fear, just enough fear to make the person interested in it, but not enough fear to make them go all out to Jesus. But that's coming. It's going to blow up in their face again when Jesus brings huge revival through these lies. Not through the lies, let me clarify that. Not through the lies, through exposing the lies with his very presence, which is truth. And then bringing peace and bringing comfort and bringing hope into the hearts and souls of those that were lost and scared, didn't know which way to turn. But then they find out, oh, my Maker loves me. My Maker will care for me. My Maker will go to bat for me when no one else will. And that's not one time, that's every time. He has never failed you, and he won't start now. And that's the truth for everyone whose ears can hear what I'm saying. Okay, everyone, so I wanted to show you guys this one last time. I found this on the back of a Cheerios Cinnamon. And the Cheerios Cinnamon had this little letter on the back, except it was kind of hard to see, but you can see. Now, if when you're out in the store, take a look and notice at how many lotions are going to start having the letter Q on them. Take note of how many things in the industrial world will start showing that Q. That's to normalize people. That's to show that it is part of the game. I showed you guys the Doug Funny Quailman thing. Now there's this. They are bringing it along. It's good to show you that it's not just some off-the-cuff thing that the media is calling. You see, because the media can say it's a conspiracy. The media can think it is what it is. That just makes better political theater to keep people more intrigued, to make them think it's more real. If these people in charge of these lies and Satan, if he told both sides what was really going on, I think you'd have a lot less enthusiasm. I think you'd have a lot more leaks and all that. So they can't do that. They have to make it seem true for both sides, and that's what Satan does. And the best way to do that is to get people wrapped up in all this hatred and all this division, and basically to just have money be the main thing, because everyone's about money. Right now, with this big dispute in Washington, it's about money. It always comes back to money. Money being the root of many kinds of evil. And when it's not Christians, it's not Bible thumping, blood-bought Christians turning to God for wisdom, we don't have wise people making decisions. We have people consumed by greed. Okay, and I want to do a couple reminders here before I tune this one out, and then we're going to get into the Bible, the most important part. So here's another city in the sky. Don't forget with 2 Thessalonians. They've been telling people the lie about the rapture for a long time, that they're going to have everyone meet in the sky, meet in the clouds. You meet Jesus in the clouds. Well, you might meet the false Jesus in the cloud on one of these fake cities. Look I put a little Q in there to remind you all. So here's one without the Q. I mean, look at that I-beam. And look at you can clearly see there's a signia on the side of the building, which looks just like a spaceship, kind of, the Millennium Falcon in a way. But there's an I-beam going across it. That's a solid structure, sitting upon a UFO that looks like a cloud. Not confusing. And so I give you said UFO that Sits on a cloud, looks like a cloud, when it's not got the right little angle of sunlight and it gets exposed. You can see how it would work. You can see a dome on the top, city on the inside. The rainbow on the outside is the actual dome structure that goes over it. These are nothing new. People have seen these coming out of water in UFO. The channel Beyond Creepy has done multiple videos on these types of UFOs coming up out of the water. Now they're huge, but they can still move around like a small little craft because they cheat the system. They don't go by God's laws. They violate all of his laws of nature because that's what they do. They don't do things the right way. Anyways, it's just, I've seen these up in the sky too, even the 3 rings of rainbows and all that stuff. To me, it's just refraction. Why do they need the sun simulators? Which, by the way, I've also seen that same shape of the sun simulator, if you've seen those on the channel WSO before. I've seen those now in the backs when they're doing little performances. Who is it? With Ariana, whatever, whoever it could have been. I'm not saying it was her, but they have that same shape in the background, getting people ready for when they have to show it. Now they'll have some excuse, but what do I believe that's for? They're covering up that Luke 21 is happening. The sun and moon are failing to give their light. They're turning red. Whatever planetary system is probably coming in, but always to remember, they can fake all that stuff with blue beam. So you just wait. You'll know in your spirit. You'll know. But keep looking, keep watching, keep praying. That's why you pray, because you need to know what's the real thing and what's not. But at least your mind and heart are in the right place and looking for the truth. Now let's get into what's really important, the truth of the word. Whoops. I wanted to show this quick before, just to show you guys the predictive programming. These are Doug episodes from when I was a kid, so early 90s, mid 90s. What's he got on his shirt there? Yep, what's the dog would have one too. You can even see a mark upon his forehead, that belt, making a, what I would see as a T, a Tav, but some could say a J, an upside down J, Quail Lab. I mean, there's probably so much occultic. I mean, even the coils in there remind me of Tesla and the beakers. Anyways, I'm sure there's a lot about it, but it was episode 12, so interesting. Okay, and exposing more BS on their site. Here was a actual news story that aired when the whole Corona thing started. What it should have said is, QAnon secret space program kills known satanic pedophile Tom Hanks to solidify their own credibility and advance a new one world system under the guise of freedom and truth, and we are bringing an end to satanic pedophile rings. Let me say, these people in the secret space, these QAnon military people, they knew about it. They could have stopped it a long time ago. They waited. They held out to use it as leverage. They're going to act like they just played the cards they were dealt, but they didn't. They didn't. This is how these people work. This is Psalm 2. Why do the nations rage? They rage because they have not Christ. They have not wisdom. They have not the love for the truth. They have the love for themselves. They have the love for the flesh, the love for their own glory. And so did this man. And now, praise God, that some good is coming to this. And just like how God brought Nebuchadnezzar down in Jerusalem as judgment, God uses these governments even just to prevent sin around where we live. Laws and rules and things. It's good. And God uses it to stop sinfulness, to stop unchallenged sinful. But when the government starts turning humanistic and is literally actively attacking God, then it's time to start really thinking. Time to start wondering, what's the correct interpretation for Romans 13 so that I don't get abused and used on it? And that's something all Christians should ask themselves. Moving on. Okay, here's another picture. I've been just wanting to kind of dump off some pictures, and I've saved these guys for you for a while. I did want to upload them to the other channel before they deactivated 150 sub person, which I'm probably sure I had in the 300s. They were just covering it up. But they deleted me along with all the big shots, the 20,000s, the 15,000s, and even more. Interesting that I would draw that much attention Just saying. So this is Rothschild with Abramovich standing in front of some pagan statue, which my view, I'm seeing a lot of similarities to the Roman centurion that ran the spear through Jesus' side with his arms up standing in arrogance. But the truth is that he was completely befuddled, completely broken, completely, I mean, he changed. I'm sure that guy, I'm not sure, but it's my assumption he'll be in heaven. And what a beautiful thing, too. You know? How good is God? How merciful is Jesus? Forgiving those that were sitting there torturing him to death. Forgiving them. That's not something that human beings do. And if it is, it's only human beings that came from Jesus from there out that truly have the Holy Spirit in them, because that's not a human thing. We don't forgive people that are torturing us to death. But the King of Kings, the Messiah, the maker of what is mercy, he does. And so he loves you the same. And I don't ever want any of you to ever believe for 1 second that God is not constantly reaching out to you. That's what Satan loves in his little lie these days. Make you think God's given up on you. Never. Not going to happen. No way. Never stops. Never. Satan loves to throw that unforgivable sin in your face, in everyone's face, because then he can get you to start thinking God's just given up on you. You wouldn't believe how many times I hear that on Calvary Chapel or on any other place where they send in questions. People are very concerned about it. Satan did the same thing to me. Got me thinking I committed the unforgivable sin. But you know, God allowed it in there knowing that that would happen, because he can take it and turn around and use it for good. Sometimes that's the best thing that can happen, is that Satan realizes you're taking a verse wrong. And notice he does that a lot. Think back in your life how many times a misinterpretation of a verse has cost you immense amounts of stress and strife, almost trying to drive you away from reading the Bible altogether, which is exactly what he's trying to do. He's trying to take your swords away. Okay, so before we close up, let's take a look at some of this in-your-face 666 crap. So Monster Energy has top. This is what, this is 666 when you break it down to the Hebrew. And so if you try and start to deduce where this is absolutely everywhere. You could say this is on the back of the barcodes in some respects, and I think it is. Ever since they moved out those barcodes. But just something I want you guys to see. Every time you see this price, $9.99, 666, same frequency. Don't forget, Mamoto, the scientist that wrote the word love on the glass of water, froze it, wrote the word hate, wrote every other, not everyone, but wrote a bunch of negative, neutral. The words that were love, the words that were kindness, uniform when they were under the microscope after they've been frozen. That's how the structure looked. The words that were hateful, faithless, were scattered and broken structures. So, the symbol 999, just reading it on a board, can affect you. You're made up of water, okay? You need the protection of God. You need it. And so how much more when you're wearing a symbol that's satanic? So watch what's on your clothes. That's how these things get possessed, in my opinion. They need some kind of door. Not to mention that the phone looks like a door pretty well. But anyways, I want to just, before I close this, if you guys ever watched the show American Greed, I heard them say something so perfect to expose both themselves. They were talking about one of their, an over-the-seas guy who came to America, and he said, the problem with, let's just say his name was Gomez. He was from South America. The problem with Gomez was that he misinterpreted that the American dream was all about glitz and glam and hard work or no hard work. Then they didn't give an example for what it actually was. So you can see how they put forward this whole, the American dream as it is something. It's about glitz, it's about glam, it's about having excess and access to excess. But then when somebody goes off the deep end and just steals a bunch of money and lives out that lifestyle, which America and all of its basically laws of men told them they were entitled to, told them that's what made people happy, then we run shows on them when they're just actually minor level crooks. We should write a show showing all the people that have ever worked in the Fed getting arrested for their giant Ponzi scheme, every Rothschild, which, you know what, we might. And with all the deep fake videos coming out, they can run entire trials that we will know nothing about, if it's true, if it's not. There is a deep fake pandemic coming, and that's the actual use. Studies are showing that some 90% of the internet could be fake and false and made up of fake videos in as little as 5 years. Why do I think this will happen? Because the pedos of big tech will start to cover their own butts. They've already let these quantum computers do way too much. Anyways, let's get to the Bible before we close. Okay, so, and I'd like to always remind you guys, the Abraham Accords are in the news today. And here we have, and 1 week shall establish the covenant with many, and in the midst of the week my sacrifice and drink offering shall be taken away. That is symbolic of Jesus. Okay, that's them taking away the worship of the Messiah. Remember, they despiritualize, give the spiritual interpretation back its credit, back its power. That's talking about taking away Jesus. That's talking about Christian persecution. They take it, and when they make it flesh, they have to, and they despiritualize it, then it has to turn to Israel right away, and their practices of the Old Testament being taken away, when in actuality, in my opinion, that the interpretation I just gave you makes a whole lot more sense, speaking that we speak spiritually of things. Anyways, and on the temple shall be the abomination of desolations, and at the end of the time an end shall be put to the desolation. Now, what did Jesus say that our bodies were? Temples. What's the abomination of desolation in them? It's them taking the mark. It's them worshiping the antichrist. As Jesus said, woe unto those that are pregnant at the time. Not pregnant with an actual woman, with an actual child. Pregnant with the lies of the antichrist. Pregnant with the worship of the antichrist. Now, do you see how they despiritualize unto death to people? Don't let them take away the spiritual part of the Bible. So, moving on to another verse that needs to be known. Okay, so here's Daniel 8:25. And the yoke of his chain shall prosper. Now, I believe we're talking about MAGA or someone around his thing, Kush, or even somebody coming up, the KFJ, RJ, if you catch my drift. And the yoke of his chain shall prosper. They shall have success. What did he have the first 3 years in office? There is underhanded treachery in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart. Oh, we see that. And by deceit he shall destroy many, and shall stand up for destruction of many, and shall crush them like eggs in his hand. Now I want to show you a different interpretation, or a different reading. And through his policy, this is King James Light, or the King James. And through his policy, how often do we hear policy? Also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. What did we just hear in Daniel 9:27? A covenant. By peace. Now, by prosperity too. I believe the Antichrist is going to be the biggest hander out of money we've ever seen. They have the Catholic coffers open. The Catholic Church owns about 2/3 of the world's wealth. If someone was able to get a hold of that and start passing it out, they could become very popular very, very fast. Because they would have real hard cash, hard cold money to start paying people. And that's what Satan's going to do. He's going to pay them to worship him. He knows it's short. People get so worked up, get so lost in money, and then creating a need right now through CB19 to make that receiving of that false mark of the beast money. You know, it might be a money card. It might be something like that. But the worship will be done in your heart, in your mind. And yes, I do think there might be something to the vaccines. That's a potential in my mind. But I like the church history interpretation. Not to say that there's not something to this, because we get into the Atlantean technologies of ancient times and maybe something like this. So I don't close it out. Basically, to me, I take the two interpretations. I make one 1A. I make one 1B. Okay? And then I leave them both up on the board. I watch out for both of them, and that's what I encourage you all to do. I love you all. Please share it. Please let people know that my channel was taken down with no warnings, no suspensions. Yet they said repeated multiple warnings. They didn't warn me once. They didn't even have anything attached to that email, and there would have been something, I think, but I didn't find anything else. They're lying. They're scared of truth, but we're going to keep coming at them. Love you all.